The three staff of Al Jazeera English, producers Baha Mohammed and Mohammed Fahmy, and correspondent Peter Greste, have now all been held for a full month. From Arabic language channels, correspondent Abdullah Al-Shami has been held nearly 6 months, and cameraman Mohammed Badr nearly 200 days. That's a lot of jail time for 5 people who haven't been charged with any offence. In London on Wednesday was the latest attempt to get them all released. Organised by Al Jazeera, but with speakers from the BBC, Sky News and the British Daily Telegraph newspaper all expressing grave concerns as to what this said about the interim government in Egypt and its commitments to a free press.
For a great nation like Egypt to treat people who are doing their job as journalists, which is an ethical, a decent job, which all decent societies need, for Egypt, of all countries, to treat journalists in this way is a shame on that nation.
While this was happening in London, Egypt's Prosecutor General has been considering correspondent Peter Greste's future in Cairo. He, like his colleagues, has had his detention renewed regularly while being held in prison conditions described as harsh, offering little contact with the outside world. Egypt's rules allow for people like Al Jazeera Arabic correspondent Abdullah Al-Shami to be held without charge for increasingly long periods. Opponents of all this say it's more draconian than the days of the Mubarak government. While it may be the case that large sections of the international media and human rights organisations are genuinely worried as to what's happening in Egypt at the moment, it's an open question as to the extent to which all that's shared by politicians, particularly in the West. On Tuesday night, the British Foreign Office, for example, issued a statement saying it was, quote, concerned at attacks on human rights around Cairo and elsewhere. In diplomatic terms, that sort of language is really quite mild.
Particularly Western countries who are in alliance with Egypt are in a bind. They're in a moral bind because they have been rather equivocal in their response to a military coup and then a very violent crackdown against particularly the Muslim Brotherhood and their supporters that followed. They have been less quick to condemn that than they have been lesser abuses by other regimes elsewhere in the Middle East.
There's an obvious point that Egypt's detentions of Al Jazeera staff may be seen as a form of political revenge on the government of Qatar, which bankrolls the channel. But that doesn't explain why dozens of other people have also been subjected to similar incarceration. Al Jazeera continues to insist on the objectivity of its journalistic standards. It also says that interviewing the Muslim Brotherhood does not imply sympathy with people seen by the military rulers of Egypt as a terrorist organisation. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, in London.